Today is our August World Wisdom Circle. Wow, can't believe it. We're actually in August. This is quite amazing. And it always makes me think about this passion I had for a wisdom waterfall. I started this when I was in Malaysia. We had physical, magical conversations. So we would all meet in a room and you could, as though we can all eyeball each other, there is something very different about being in the same space as other people, but this is where we are. And this is about how we utilize our collective wisdom and then we flow it. So it's a waterfall, we flow it out through our day, through our communities, our families, whatever it is we're doing. And there's a new lady here who I haven't met before, Dr. Thelma. So let me just greet her. Actually, she is coming in from Ghana, I believe. So, oh, here she is. Hello, Dr. Thelma. So, as ever, I've been talking to people on LinkedIn. Welcome, Dr. Thelma. If you can see us all and hear us, let me know, because we haven't.
Hi, I can.
Okay. And you're in Ghana. You're in Ghana, I believe.
Yeah. Yes, well, I'm in Ghana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So welcome. So you see some wonderful, wise people in the room, and hopefully more will join us. But thank you for joining us, Dr. Thelma. I was talking to Dr. Thelma online on LinkedIn, as we do meet people around the world. So the idea with our Wisdom Circle that every month we look at really what's the collective situation between men and women in the world? How can we create wisdom between us? For the very reason that we are different, we are beautifully different. Men and women come together to create not only future generations, but also different ways of working, different ways of being, different ways of understanding society and economies and all sorts of things. And this is really what we come to look at. And the essence of today was to look at loyalty. Now, I thought about what does that mean to me? So I want you to think about what does loyalty mean to you? And I wrote down a few ideas. It's about, are we loyal to a cause? Are we loyal to a person? Are we loyal to an ideal? You know, for instance, I'm no longer loyal to a football club because I gave up football. But in the days when my first husband was a Leeds United fan, he was extremely loyal to a football club that he never ever played in. But they became quite obsessional if somebody else was talking about another football club. So that's one kind of loyalty. But also, what's the loyalty between men and women? Is there such a thing? Is it something that we can understand? And I suppose the other thing is, what happens if we're disloyal? What's the impact of being out of loyalty? And the other loyalty is, in the business world, is loyalty to the customer. We talk about customer loyalty. And what does that bring? What happens when customers don't like a product? They become unloyal. So I just was really playing around with this idea. And the other aspect of this is all of the things we talk about, which is about authentic harmony. It's about potentially looking for more equal joint custody of the world. And as you may know, one of my standpoints is that we need to look away from equality and towards harmony. So where does loyalty step within that? Okay, so I'd love some viewpoints from all of you to just say, from your point of view, what does loyalty mean? Does it have a good value? Is there disloyalty between men and women? And our usual idea, which is, what do we want to stop? What's going wrong that we really want to stop and that we could all agree on? And what do we want to continue because it's a good aspect of loyalty? And what do we want to start, which we haven't got yet? So the idea of stop, continue, start. So, Christine.
Yeah, so what hit me right away was being loyal to myself in order to wrap my mind around being loyal to a cause, to another person. But first and foremost, I'm loyal to this wisdom circle. And it's early for me, not ungodly early in the morning, but there is this excitement, I want to say, when it's our monthly day. And there's something that is comforting in knowing that I'm going to see these friends here and meet new people. And we're here in the collective to just sit here and have a wonderful, as you would say, magical conversation. So, but it starts with me. I'm not always loyal with myself, but there are things that leave me with such a wonderful emotional calmness, peace, gratitude, and this circle is one.
Thank you. And that is wonderful, because my question came up for me was, how many people in the world have that? That's just a thought, because we know there was a lot of mental unwellness, mental health issues, suicide. Why do people feel they can do that and be, if you like, disloyal to themselves? So thank you. Who would like to go next? Mary? And just tell us where you're coming from, Mary, because you haven't met some of these guys.
Oh yeah, I'm coming from Brighton, England. Hi everybody. For me, loyalty is quite an interesting one, I have to say, Pauline, because I've just looked at the definition there, and it defines it as a strong feeling of support or allegiance. But I think the strongest sense of loyalty I've ever experienced, and I haven't ever experienced it since, was very early on in my, apart from football, of course, sorry, but outside the realms of football, was in one of the first organizations that I worked in my early 20s. And, that organization was Reebok. And the sense of loyalty was absolutely palpable. In fact, it was at the point of evangelical. The sense of loyalty was evangelical. And I have never come across a sort of a loyalty to a brand, and how that galvanized everybody together in such a singularity of purpose, and not goodwill, but a singularity of direction and purpose. And when things were tough within the company, everybody came together. And from certainly a career perspective, I've never experienced that in any other organization ever.
Wow, that's fantastic. And that is a really important, pivotal thing for me, for sure, that, there are a lot of companies now where people are not loyal to the company because they just don't feel engaged, they don't feel belonging, they don't feel, oh, it's just a job. And some of us have had those experiences where we get thrown out of a company and with no care. So that's so important. Thank you for bringing that up. We want more companies like that. That's the goal, with ensuring, again, loyalty between all of us, especially men and women. So I was going to ask Adolfo, because I know you've had some company experience that were not so good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was quite loyal. So loyalty, I think, has to do a lot with what Christine mentioned. It has to do with you, right? And my terms as to how I live or what represents me is what I will be loyal to. So I've been loyal to companies. I've been loyal to car companies, for example, right? So you can be loyal to a particular product, and I mean, just like a football team, it represents some parts of you, and so you can feel identified, right? And hence, I'm loyal. I don't currently drive a Porsche, but I'm loyal to Porsche, right? Like the brand does something. It represents part of my character. Same thing with people. So I think you do have to be in a place where you're true to yourself, because loyalty is a one-way choice. It's not a relationship thing, right? Like with a football club, the club isn't loyal to you, right? In a company, it's hard for the company to be loyal to you as a structure. You are an individual. You choose certain aspects of your value that you can add, and then you're loyal to that. You adopt the vision, the mission. That can be broken, right? And it doesn't mean that you become unloyal. You just might no longer follow that club, for example, right? So I no longer work for that company, but I didn't lose the reasons why I was loyal to them. You know, I still believe in the resources that they managed and the way that they wanted to push forth. So I take with me what makes me loyal. If that makes sense.
I love that. And that idea that we can be a loyal person, and that might give us a choice to remove ourselves from a particular place. And I'm just going to see that Dr. Felmer, I think loyalty can also be associated with temperament a bit. Some of the character traits of some temperaments include loyalty. It's one of the strengths of melancholics. So thank you for that as well. And I thought that was really interesting to say that loyalty is a one-way choice. I hadn't thought about it like that. But it's like when somebody's disloyal to us, how do we feel? Because sometimes when they're disloyal to us, we can feel like we're hit in the solar plexus.
Right.
And we're still a loyal person, but they've been disloyal to us. Thank you, Adolfo. Oh, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with both Adolfo and Christine. From my personal experience of working within the organization and running an organization, I think the most essential part that I have experienced is the fact of being truthful to myself, honoring myself, getting to know what is valuable to me, what are my values, because those are the things that actually get transmuted into any organization that you are possibly running or have been associated with. And when those things actually come in coherence, it's really remarkable to see that we become, if you are a CEO and you have this kind of values and you encourage people to come in and actually be part of the whole ethos and the essence of the company, which is coming from you, it's amazing how you become the invitation for other people to choose that too.
Yes.
That has been my personal experience. So it's not about forcing people. It's not about saying you've got to do this. It's about being the invitation, and you can only be an invitation when you are being that yourself. So people get opened up, to saying, that's a different way of looking at it. And again, if people tend to leave and what we're calling disloyal, possibly it's better for people to leave if they're not aligning with what it is that you hold valuable within the organization, if you're the CEO. And if you are an employee and it is not, you're not in coherence with what it is, it will always impact your performance. So we've got to be very aware of those things. That is what I believe loyalty is. And it starts with you individually.
Absolutely. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because the core of what we talk about here in the wisdom circle is that everything starts from within us. So the principle of the value creation cycle, which many of you know about, but it's that simple idea that the only value we create is internally and then we express it in relationships, and then we express it into the whole. So the whole entity, which a company can be, can pressurize us. And that's the idea of, you will do it this way. That's not inciting loyalty. It's not creating a sense of loyalty. But also going back to this idea, it's a one-way choice. So we might have a loyalty to a brand, but the brand itself might operate in a way that we don't think is good. So there's an interesting kind of moral issue, maybe. That's something else. So if we look also about how people are loyal to each other, and we're looking at men and women, why do some organizations become dysfunctional when it comes to the engagement of women? And I'm going to ask Clara about this, because I think, there is different value statements around men and women in the organizations. When I read an article recently, though it was an older one, but that women are regarded differently in the organization than men when something goes wrong. Is that to do with loyalty?
Tricky one. So yeah, I'll just start by saying, for me, on a personal level, loyalty, I like to think that I am a very loyal person. That starts with my commitment, my support, giving my support to somebody. And, in terms of a company, in that instance, I would say that you are committing to produce or to be of service. So you are, you're very dedicated and loyal to that particular customer. So there's an exchange of energy. I hear what Alfonso says about it being a one-way street, but I think for me, it's not really a one-way street, because I think if you build a loyalty with your customers tend to be loyal back to you. They will stay with you. They will tend to prefer you. That's been my understanding. In terms of business, when it comes to suppliers, in business, contractors, et cetera, I don't always think the loyalty is reciprocated. And I certainly think my personal view as a female is that men aren't always as loyal to women as women are to men. But that's just on a personal note. That's not to say that's all men, because I think there are a lot of men out there that if you're providing them with, and you're being loyal and committed, they will tend to think of you. But my overarching feeling is that men are more loyal to men than they are to women in business, particularly in the construction industry. I would say it's more prevalent for men to look out for men, but they tend to overlook women because women aren't necessarily deemed in that genre. So I think also it could possibly be to do with the with the industry as well, because I've heard from my own circle, my own wisdom circle, where women haven't always felt that if they were in a particular environment that men weren't particularly loyal. It could be quite a win dog eat dog kind of to the top, daggers, which is not very healthy, but we see it in politics, and we're seeing it in Westminster at the moment, where lots of females are talking about not a very ethical environment for them to work in. Now, is that loyalty? I don't know. That comes under a thin end for me. But yeah, so for me, on a personal note, I'm a very loyal person. I like to be loyal to my friends. I like to be loyal to things I commit to. I agree with Christina. It's very exciting when you create new dynamics, whether it's business or personal, and that you've got a common cause. So again, what Jennifer is saying, for me, it's definitely a value-led thing, and that it aligns with my values. In my own group, I've posted out the message this week saying along the lines of, are we loyal? What when our values don't align with our country, our government, with our religions anymore? We see it in Iran, you know, when suddenly your perspectives change and you think, well, actually, this isn't aligning to who I am. And then I think we have to question what we're being loyal to and why we're being loyal to it. And things change, people evolve. So I also think that on a final note, that as we evolve as a humanity and as women are far, you know, becoming much more emancipated and, you know, intelligent and confident, that they are questioning the values more of the systems that they find themselves in. So I just leave that as a lasting note. Thought.
And I think, you know, everything in the world is changing so rapidly. And what came to mind then was, you know, about people who get stuck in the past. Are they loyal to the past for the wrong reason? You know, that's
absolutely.
And in our focus on harmony between men and women, why are we stuck? Because we are stuck. You know, the world is not shifting on fast. The companies are not all like the one Mary described, you know.
Yes, exactly. If you're lucky and you're in a company like that, then hallelujah. I mean, I try and create that ethos in my own teams that, you know, people are loyal to each other and you're looking out for each other. So you're building a camaraderie, which is what I think is being alluded to with the football teams. You know, there's a common interest for a team to win. There's a camaraderie of tipping up and support. It's about support. And, you know, men particularly do that shoulder to shoulder support with each other. Whether they let women in that circle, I don't know.
Yeah, and let's go to Nina and then Matt, and we'll see. I mean, Nina, what's your thought coming in? Certainly from a different generation to me. What's your thoughts? And explain. You're in England as well.
Yes, so I'm in Hampshire in the UK. So I agree with everything Clara said. So ever since Christine was saying that, you know, she really values and is loyal to the group, for me, it does come down to our personal values. It's easy to be loyal when the values align. And I think what you're alluding to about, you know, the breakdown of the systems and the way things are going, it's very hard to align and be loyal to a country or a government or even a political party when your values aren't in alignment with them anymore. So yes, I find this a very interesting topic because I almost feel that are we losing this concept of loyalty more and more because things are shifting so fast, and certainly personally things are going in directions that I'm not aligned with. And also the whole thing about AI beggars a question for me. It's like when so much now seems to be created potentially by AI, from everything from branding to copy to, you know, all sorts of things. I don't know how I personally feel about that. You know, if a company or a product or a institution that I used to be loyal to, if they use AI to generate all of their marketing and promotion material, I'm thinking like, I don't know if I feel aligned with that. So that's a very interesting concept for me.
Well, it is, and it's interesting, this idea of where does loyalty sit in our current world? You know, how is it aligned to values? If everything is changing and AI is producing all sorts of things. I know I personally have a challenge with AI, not with using it, because I do, but my husband is a grammar fanatic, so he doesn't like the fact that I would possibly use AI. So I don't tell him now. Is that me being disloyal to him? I don't know. I feel bad about it, but I want to use something that will speed up my ability when I'm not good at grammar, not good at spelling. So I use ChatGPT to help me. But there is a sense of how much transparency do you have? And transparency is another interesting part of this. So Matt, we haven't heard from you. What about loyalty for you?
It's a very interesting subject. I think there's many aspects to it, in the sense that it's individual for everybody, in the sense that everybody has their values and they look for values from external things that they want to potentially be loyal to, or that they can discern that they're not going to be loyal to, a bit like Clara was saying before. If there's a company or a group of people that you don't want to be associated to, that's much easier to actually choose not to be loyal in many respects, or be disloyal. Whereas choosing to be loyal is a very hard decision to get to that point, because it takes a lot of in my mind at least, decisions on the way. Because for me, I need to anticipate and think about whether it's something that I do align to. Quite often, I want to ask a lot of questions. Anybody who speaks to me knows that I ask a lot of questions because I like to figure stuff out. And that for me is the process for whether I feel loyal or trust, or the two of those things go for a lot of my ability to be loyal. Is the trust and loyalty go hand in hand. And that I guess comes down to then being disloyal, because you then feel, well, yeah, I don't trust these people anymore, whether that's a government or a company, because they've done X, Y, or Z, or you found out something that you didn't know before, and therefore you don't trust them anymore. And why would you be loyal to somebody that you don't trust? Going back to childhood, my own childhood was filled with distrust to parts of my family, and therefore I didn't feel loyal to my family in many respects. Same for religion, same for many things that I should have felt trust for, and therefore been loyal to. Sometimes people look at that and say, should be more loyal to that. But that's a personal decision that you can only base on how you feel and whether you trust those things. And just going to government, the problem that a lot of us face is that we have two-party political systems where we fundamentally don't trust either side, don't feel loyalty to either side because they no longer stand for, or they've demonstrated that they don't actually deliver what they say that they will, and therefore we don't trust them. Therefore, how can we be loyal to them? But then what's the other choice?
Thank you, Matt. And what came up for there is this whole thing about trust. And when trust is broken, everything seems to go to pieces, because there's this theory that when trust is high, everything works smoothly and costs are low. When trust is low, everything is a crazy mess, and there are costs and damages and output that are extremely hard to talk about. So it strikes me that there's something around transparency. So I was going to ask Musay, because Musay, transparency is really important to you, I know. So how do you see loyalty and transparency?
Yeah, how are you all? Yes, loyalty is it's key to me. First and foremost, not only in business, in any personal engagement. As you were aware that I came from Ethiopia, and people live in loyalty because their business is based on highly in loyal transactions, because they don't have the mechanisms to exchange businesses in different way. That's why people, they transact. Let's say you don't have money, you go to any kiosk, you borrow money without even any written agreements, because it's in an infrastructure where people are loyal. They know they're accountable, to meet the expectations. So coming from that arena and then working here in the US in the hospital settings and in many other business situations also, for me, it's built within me. I know we've had some conversation in prior with you. Loyalty is king to me, and it's vice versa. And if I witness that in any form of shape, the organization that I'm affiliated with lacks loyalty, I wouldn't stay longer. because that's key to me. And loyalty is within. It doesn't matter if it is in politics and business or in personal situations. I stick with loyalty. That's how I see it.
Yes, and that's so interesting, because our cultural backgrounds, our history, our families, where we were, the way we were brought up is going to be part of that. I was brought up in a very Catholic family, and I was the only one of all of us who chose to lead that religion. And I felt very disloyal when I did that in my 40s. But I did it because it was just, it wasn't what I wanted to, where I wanted to be. And it was actually because there was one rule that I wanted to disobey, which was that I couldn't get divorced, and I wanted to get divorced. But interesting enough, my parents totally understood me. And I found that really interesting, because I was really afraid that I was being disloyal to them by following my own inner value about what I wanted to be. And I was really scared about telling my mum. And my dad was a bit more conciliatory. And when I told him, he said, "Oh, can I sort this out?" Because he was a sort of fixer. And I said, "No." And he said, "How are we going to tell your mother?" So I found that really interesting. So almost he was being loyal to me. But when I told her, she saw me as a person, and it went beyond that particular, whatever that is. But this idea of loyalty and transparency, trust, morality, that's another word that's come up. I don't know whether there's anything, Dr. Felmer, that you want to add in here. And thank you for your comment on there, but let me know, because I can't see you on the screen, if there's anything you would like to say at this point. So I'm not sure. Anyway, I really value what you've been saying. And one of my challenges is going to the core of what our focus is how does loyalty come into this whole equation of the fact we don't have harmony between men and women? And a question that's burning on my tongue is, are women loyal to women?
I think in most cases that in business or in personal, I see from my perspective, even like in marriage or relationships, from my personal experience, I tend to witness women are more loyal than, I'm not trying to knock down us because I'm a man, I have a daughter, I'm none of that. But the fact of the matter is, I see women being more loyal, and then that's how I see it. And then from previous engagements also, especially in tech business and tech arena, they said more men are, work well, more loyal to men than women. That's why the tech areas, like, you don't see that many women figure. Now it's improving, those are the things that I see.
Okay. And one of the things is that Clara mentioned that, women, that we were talking about the construction industry where men were possibly more loyal to men than women. But are women loyal to other women? And I say that from, if I look at the experience of the last 100 years where women have fought for equality, and we fought to get the vote, this whole level of competitiveness that's now come into business. We do know stories of many, I've come across it in many situations where when I'm dealing with audiences, women say, and men say, "Oh, I really don't like working for a female boss." I'm sure you've all heard that. Yes, I've got a few nods there. So why is that? Is that because the competitive edge has come in to somehow change the energy of what would naturally be female to female loyalty? Now, I know there's male to male loyalty. So I want to just look at, is there is there something going wrong with female to female loyalty?
I think generally when I've experienced in business, I find female to female, my colleagues very loyal to me and vice versa. I think loyalty, I think we've all agreed around the table, is that loyalty comes from within. It's a state of being. And I think it is about your values to others. So I would be loyal to anybody. I don't think it's necessarily a gender thing, but the minute the loyalty isn't reciprocated, then that's when I just think, right, boom, I'm out of here. It doesn't align anymore. And you have an opportunity to express that, whether it's male or female boss, and whether people, maybe didn't realize they were behaving in a particular way. And sometimes what I find in business that I've seen, and it's women and men, not just women, but it can happen. Well, I can't say it statistically because I don't know, but I've met women who say blah, 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 and this is what we're all about, and this is great and wonderful, but actually their value system doesn't align backwards in their staff. So they're saying it out front facing outwards, but they're not actually aligning it. And that I remember working with a female who was particularly like that. I don't know. I think it's a gender thing. I do think women, what I've seen is women can stick together and men can stick together, but whether women and men, I don't know. I've experienced that where I've turned up as the female lead and a guy threw his toys out the pram. Because why should he take it from me? I'm the female. Who do I think I am? And I'm like, well, actually, you're working for me. Sorry, but you signed up. And then after he'd kind of, I just said, get on with it. I'm going to go and have a coffee, and you still need to do that, sort it out, whether you like it or not, because guess who's paying your bill? When I arrived back, he actually apologized. He'd had a huge row with his girlfriend, and he took it out on me. But because I stayed very cool, calm, and like, I'm not having this, he was able to apologize. But I don't know if he'd have done that with a man.
Well,
who knows,
Okay, so Christine, you've got a hand up. I've got some thoughts on that, and I want Christine's view.
Yeah, so this goes back to the very core of your work in archetypes, how each of the four define loyalty, and then so the when, the what, the why, and the who, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that definition, how does that resonate? And by really embracing each other's archetype, you can then say, oh, now I understand why that's her point of view of loyalty. I didn't think about that, because they're all loyal to the time, loyal to the schedule, loyalty to the purpose. Yeah. So, but what came to me earlier, as Clara or someone was speaking, was, it was Musi. Loyalty is earned, I feel. Like when you're in a relationship, one-to-one or whatever, it's a matter of, do you feel in your heart the intention is resonating where you can then say, God, I just feel the profound loyalty and trust with this person. I don't think that is immediate. And then all of a sudden, whether it's a company or a group or a wisdom circle or any kind of club, someone makes a move like on a chessboard, and they make a move and you're like, whoa, that throws you. And then you have to question, maybe the loyalty's in jeopardy because now there's been a choice where you go, wow, now what? So I think it's ever changing in the ebb and flow of life. I mean, that's what it feels like. You could be 100% loyal and connected and feel aligned in your heart, and then one tiny little thing could throw it off track.
Absolutely. And the reason that, you see, of course, one of the things about everybody here is that the reason you're here is that you're all wise. You're not like the people out there who don't understand this yet. And that's really important. Now, in my work over the last several years, but over the last couple of years using Zoom and having men's groups, women's groups, there's a difference when you've only got women in the room. So we had that experience recently with the program where Mary was there, Jennifer was there. Clara, you weren't on that one, but it was only women. And we explored everything using the archetypes for 3.5 hours. I don't think you guys would have managed that. 3.5 hours of women talking about women, because it was very specifically about us and we all got to understand each other. So there's two different layers here. One is the loyalty between men and women, and when women are in the room, men are in the room. But when women only in the room, it's just my experience over 30 years doing presentations to different groups, whenever it's been a group of all women, and you get to the point of talking about, is there loyalty between women? Do women get on with women? I find that 5% of the audience are nodding at me saying yes, and the other 95% are going, oh, what, me? Surely not. And this is a very female thing, so I don't necessarily expect men to understand that. My perception of my perspective on this is that because we've created the world over the last 100 years based on some very male dictates in business. So I don't mean to say that male, but the whole system of business, which is very linear and very structured and very hierarchical and profit motive and all that stuff is changing now. But I have found in my studies that there is this notion when women are together that we must support each other, and we do. And when we're sisters together, we're fantastic, nothing can break it. But that doesn't always happen when you get into that competitive hierarchical world. And I know, Jennifer, you and I have talked about this. It's not that we've got it wrong. We've been playing on a landscape that has forced us sometimes to be very challenging with each other. And I used to go to an event in London where the toast was, we raise our glasses to all the things that are fantastic about women, and you think you what they're going to say, and you raise your glass and the lady says to handbags and shoes. So that's a very female thing, and everybody laughs. And there's, the statement, which I don't know whether you men have heard, but there's a special place in hell for a woman who doesn't help another woman. Have you heard that, ladies?
Yeah, I have heard it. I've come across it
But
recently.
It's something, there's something which I don't know that in a man's world, but I always sense that men have a different relationship with each other than women do in terms of this perspective.
I think one of the things I want to share.
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Matt's got his hand up, so I'll respect that.
Right.
And then we'll come to, I want to ask Jennifer, because we have talked about this as well, and then you, Clara.
Yeah.
So Matt.
Thank you. So I have a little problem to the fact that I'm not in all women meetings, so I can't directly say if I was in there. I've seen some videos of all women meetings, and some of them can be very difficult, and some of them can be very friendly. It depends, I think, on the relationship, because that's what we're really talking about, is whether we trust people, whether we value their opinion, and if their opinion is trustworthy because we found it to be. I think from my point of view, whether I'm a typical man, I don't know, but my point of view has always been figure out whether you can trust somebody and make friends with them if you can, to a large degree, and then use that to work together. I think generally that's the way that the world is now looking to progress. I can't speak for women-only groups, but the groups that I go to, that's what they kind of want. Hopefully women groups want that too.
Well,
if not, invite me along and I'll have a chat with you.
Well, it's interesting because yes, as I said, we're all wise. That's why we're here. We all value ourselves. We all want to create a world which is full of trust. What I'm pointing out is that the world isn't quite there yet. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the issues that are floating around the world that we know about and which get extremely awful in some companies where women are marginalized, in countries where women are definitely marginalized. And it's not about that this is only men. This is about the system and how we change that and create something different. So that's really where I'm looking at it. And so Dr. Sabria, you've got your hand up. Let's have a quick comment from you. And then I want to ask Jennifer what she thinks, because we were having a conversation about this with regards to the a larger network of women. So Sabria, do you think that women are loyal to each other?
Well, good evening from India. And the topic, when I just zoomed in or entered in the Zoom, I found the word loyalty, Loyalty, and a beautiful word called Trust. Now, in a relationship, if I talk about, let me wrap it up, loyalty and trust, these are the basic pillars for any relationship, whether we are talking about a woman to woman or a man to woman or a friends or a business. And without these words, beautiful relationships cannot move on. But why? Today, we all are in dilemma because of our past experiences, or we see in today's world where people are deceiving each other, cheatings, disloyalty, disheartening, and where so many people are feeling that their hearts are reckoning into pieces. And answer Pauline's question, which I love to answer. She said about a women to women connection and about the business. So that all we influenced with a selfless trust. We don't expect anything in return. If I am loving her, why she's not loving? This sort of questions never makes anything successful. So Pauline's, I won't take much of the time, and I will say only and only to one thing. If you want to trust any person, whether the person is next to you or so much distance to you, it depends solely on your heart-to-heart connection, heart-to-heart trust, and that defines you, a complete man or a complete woman. And I think so many people are there to add value. So that's a wrap up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sabria. Always full of inspirational hope. And yes, if we connect heart to heart, we will get there. But that's not happening at the moment in the world, in everybody. So I want to come to Mary and to Jennifer. So let me just ask Jennifer, and then I'm going to come to you, Mary. Jennifer, you and I have talked about this a lot, about how do we change the baseline landscape.
So, can I say something now? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting what I'm hearing, and I think this is my personal point of view. It's like if everyone had to actually get out of their points of views that they're bought into for eons and eons of lifetimes, just because mom did that, grandmother did that, and the whole shebang, and that's the norm, and you must perform to fit in the norm, then we ain't going to go nowhere. Literally, we're going to be stuck in the frigging hamster wheel, and we're not going nowhere. Okay, that's my personal perception. Now, when we're talking about women and women together, where Pauline and myself actually work within an organization also, and we see that many people would like to drive this equality and gender parity as though it's like one big freaking deal. Okay, we have the situation. Can we get off this situation and actually talk about what is the resolution? Are we solving it by going on harping on the fact that there is inequality? We know that. All of us know that. Everyone over here knows that, okay? But the question over here is, what are we doing to get over that instead of harping on it? Because everywhere that you put energy in one thing, the more energy you put in it, the more it expands. We all know that. So we talk about cancer, and we want to get rid of cancer, so we're creating more frigging cancer in the planet. You want to do gender equality, and it's not happening.
No.
So I love what Pauline talks about, and it is about, can we understand how first individually we work with ourselves? That's my core. I always love to look at how it is that I'm working. Forget about everyone else, okay? Am I being authentic with me? Because again, if we can stop to ask questions to find out, is this really working for me? We don't question. We keep going on with the same paradigm. And my job in the work that I do is busting paradigms, okay? I'm here to do that, to shift and change the narrative. So when Pauline talks about positive masculinity, and I asked her the question, if I may say so, Pauline, I said, why the hell do you have positive frigging masculinity? Because then you're saying that there's negativity with masculinity. Why can't we just call it, I came up with the phrase gender harmony, because that makes more sense. Because when you're saying something's positive, there has to be a negative side to it. That is the duality we're living in. Totally 3D. We've got to get over it and actually question our status quo, because that's the way we can explore and actually grow, and which is what it is we're doing in the Wisdom Circle. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And it's all about words. Words, it always makes me laugh, because words imply everything. So if we look at a sort of Deo symbol, positive and negative are actually complementary. It's like masculine and feminine. It's like hot and cold. So I love all this. And just to remind everybody so that we're clear, the notion of positive masculinity, and the reason that we use that was it came out of a charter that's happening in Africa, Central Africa, where 6 male presidents are supporting the notion of positive masculinity to teach men to be more positive in the best sense and eliminate violence against women and girls. Now, that's just a fact. Whether it's actually happening in the way that we would love it to happen, that's another thing. But the notion of positive masculinity, I have to say that in my experience of talking to men about equality and harmony, they love the word harmony. And when you mention positive masculinity, they also feel good about it. So I hope the men on the call do as well. So it's all about using words to inspire us. So Mary, let's just go to you, because I think it's very interesting where you started when you talked about this amazing company that you worked in, where I'm sure there was an equal, or certainly a good mixture of men and women.
Yeah, I would say 50-50 right across the company. And the ethos was like a stick of rock. It was through the middle. It was, everybody. Everybody bought into it. New people who came into it bought into it straight away, and that was the strength of the culture and of the group. And I think that buy-in was, whether they'd thought about the buy-in before or whether they hadn't. So if they had a pair of Nike trainers and they wore them to work day one, they would absolutely not wear them again, because the loyalty that was engendered was not only instantaneous, but also that there was the underlying complexity of the culture and the sort of the herd mentality that was there. And one of the questions that sort of it's triggered for me, I've got loads of notes here, by the way, is, for me, loyalty can exist on multiple levels. And for me, loyalty between, whether it's loyalty to a man or to a woman, it is pretty irrelevant for me. But loyalty can be on multiple levels. There can be the level of complete trust and absolute loyalty. But then for me, there's a scale of loyalty that sort of would go from complete loyalty, absolute trust, to complete disloyalty and absolute mistrust. So for me, it sort of sits on a sliding scale, and that's you know, whether it's a man or a woman, whether I like them or not, that's an irrelevancy. I do think that some loyalties, certainly in my past, because of the environment I grew up in, you know, in the 80s, in the Northeast, in time of massive social upheaval. You know, I came from a mining industry sort of area, and in terms of loyalty, if you articulated disloyalty to the cause of the strike, you were articulating disloyalty to your family, your father, your mother, all of your friends, the entire community, the entire area. So I always feel that loyalty on a more macro level has got that socioeconomic and development, sort of personal development, cultural development, complexity underlying everything.
Yes, I love that. And what strikes me there, and we have scheduled to be here another half an hour. If anybody needs to leave, that's fine. But one of the things that really strikes me here, and I wanted to look into this, is the nature of that company was set into a way that gender inequalities didn't come up.
Yep, absolutely.
Diversity inequalities didn't come up. So when you get the landscape right, you get the infrastructure, you get the culture right, then loyalty becomes part of being there as a person. And obviously other things like trust, dare I say, happiness, feeling that you belonged, you know, all sorts of other things came because that culture had been created to support all of that. And that's what I see, is that when we still get a lot of articles about gender inequality, or, you know, we're getting more women into top places. I'm just about to do my newsletter about that. I was studying, as it happened, Barclays, because 15 years ago, I did a big diversity intervention at Barclays. So I was checking out 15 years later, what's changed. And that's what I want to look at, is what's changed. What's happened to that company that Mary's talking about? What's happened? How many companies can you quote like Mary's company, hand on heart, that we read about in the news? I don't know that there are many.
I've not found another one ever.
There's one up the road that's just been voted. It's in the joinery section. They've just been voted the best workplace for men and women to. In fact, I was going to reach out to them and invite them on the wisdom circle. But
well, I think that's the thing, and that's one thing that we'll come back to. I wanted to talk about, is that we need more examples. So these examples, like that one you're going to quote, we need to know them and understand them, because why isn't every company like that? Why isn't every group and every association okay with designing it in a way that creates harmony? So I always use the example of an orchestra. You know, it sounds like that company Mary is telling us about, and I've come across some. They know what they're about. They know why they belong there. And when somebody leaves, they're not leaving because they're running away from it. They must moving on in their lives. I always quote Virgin, because I always feel that Richard Branson has created good cultures. I don't know whether that's a real fact, but that's what I sense. So, you know, knowing where these companies are, and we know that the big corporations aren't necessarily like this. Otherwise, women wouldn't be leaving, and we wouldn't hear in stories about harassment and all the things that we do here. So we're living in this paradigm shift where we want to move to that place we're all talking about, where we live heart to heart, we trust each other, we are transparent with each other, and we understand and can admit to differences in the room being okay. So we've got differences in the room here. We've got rulers, sovereigns, magicians, and philosophers. Not everybody here knows all about my archetypes, but if you don't know, I shall be sharing more with you, certainly with Dr. Felmer. But the idea is, how do we understand each other, and how do we get to that place where we can have that conversation about the larger entity that we're living in? So that might be a company, it might be a community, it might be your state or your county or your country, it might be your religion, whatever it is, whatever the entity is that's giving you some negative energy. So Carla.
Yeah, all I was going to say was, back when whoever brought it up, I think it followed Christine, was, and I think Musi said it as well. So that going back to the transparency, I think when I've worked in teams where it's been happy, it's been a great environment, like we said, the great culture, I think what happens there is no judgment on anybody. So no one's judging anybody else. Can he or she or blah, blah, blah do that job? There's no, oh, she's a woman. It's very transparent. Everyone's showing up. And then what I wanted to also just say, and I think it was Jennifer, and I agree, I think it's the way communication isn't just about words that we're saying. And I think sometimes, is there a fear between men with women? Because I've heard men say really weird things about women, and they make a really weird judgment because maybe they've come up against, perhaps, as you would say, a toxic female who's been being a bit psychotic, and then she's perhaps not expressing herself eloquently or calmly, and so therefore it's that thing that between mothers and sons, is there a fear that women, men feel that women are going to shame them or show them up, and is a bit closed door, in the work environment. And I think until we get to a place where, and I think we're all doing it. I know in my own life, I've walked my talk. I'm raising the bar, I'm shifting my own paradigm. And I'd like everyone else to follow suit with me, because it's a much more playful, a nice energy to be in. But I think it is about transparency. It is about the way we communicate and how we communicate it. But it's also about showing up and being a big boy or a big girl about the job you're doing. So in other words, I think sometimes there can be a tendency where women might go into the victim mentality still. I'm not saying all women, so I don't want to get sort of slated, but if you're going to show up, you've got to have your big girl pants on or your big boy pants on and do the job in question. And then if you can't get the job done, it's like, be transparent, have a conversation with your colleagues, because that's about team and camaraderie. And then that creates loyalty, because you're not hiding something. And I think it's this hiding and not being truthful that creates bad atmospheres, and then it's you're not being loyal to one another. So I think for me it's around being transparent, having healthy communication, and not having a judgment about somebody because you think, oh, because they're this type of character, they couldn't possibly know this stuff. How could a woman know all about joinery? Well, actually, made it my life path mission, and I had parents involved in the industry. Yeah. So I think sometimes there is a judgment. So I think we need to.
Well, absolutely. And remember that the core of what we're about in a wisdom circle and in your life is conversations without judgment.
Exactly.
Conversations without anger. And what absolutely. I say, bringing passion in, but also understanding that if somebody is angry, it doesn't mean you stop them and say, stop, be magic. But remember, that ceases to be a magical conversation at that point. You have to change your energy level. And the other thing is that remembering that we do need action, but we also need to understand there's a seeding ground. So for instance, if we're going to change the landscape, we're going to create new cultures, which breed the kind of companies that Mary was sharing with us that we know are possible, then we need to take our perspective into that conversation and understand people have different perspectives. So in my experience with men and women, we are different. Men are not all the same. Women are not all the same. I know you've heard me say this before, but it's a really clearing place. Men are more straightforward and linear, and women are more complex and circular. And some men are more direct, some men are more thinker-feelers, some women are more direct action, some women are more intuitive, sensitive. These are not personalities, these are lenses on which we see the world. So if we're looking at changing the main frame of our conversation, I want to, sorry, Mary. Yeah, Mary has to go. Thank you, Mary, for being here and coming in with your stories. I just want to quickly go around and say, what is one thing that you would like to stop happening, and do it very, very, very succinctly? And what thing would you like to start? And I'm going to ask Adolfo, because he's my well-known ruler here, who works with me at Corporate Heart International and is very succinct.
Yeah, well, I'm going to not demand loyalty, right? Loyalty doesn't come by demand. It comes by offering an extension of alignment. I'm not going to change my choices to how loyal I am to whether a situation is something that I should be loyal to or not. You know, I think the values, the situation, companies, and the like change, but I shall not. I evolve. So I'm loyal to this. Like I said, like Christine, I love that you brought that, because this is internal and it's reflective of me and my choices to be a better leader, right? So I wish to have people be loyal to ideals, right? Because those are the ones that stay. If the ideals change, then the person's going to move towards something that is aligned still with the ideals that represent that person. So,
Thank you. Christine, as our sovereign here.
So one word is what you're asking?
What one thing you would like to stop and start?
Stop the judgment, even self-judgment, and allow choice across the board.
Thank you. That's brilliant. Nina.
Yeah, I think I'm just writing down. So I'd want to stop trying to win loyalty. So with dishonesty, trying to say things that you think will win loyalty when it isn't true, and start being transparent and allow people to choose you because their values align.
Thank you. Excellent. Jennifer. Okay, your sound. Thank you.
Let's stop judging each other, number one. And number two, choose to be more self-aware, because that will take you to wherever you'd like to go. That's been my personal journey.
Thank you. Thank you. Muse.
Be transparent, and then be accountable for your actions, and then show loyalty from your perspective, and give it some time to see how that build up to the other party. Transparency, accountability.
Transparency and accountability. Fantastic. Matt.
Just going to say one thing in two different ways. Stop being untrustworthy and start being trustable.
Trustable. I love that. Trustable. That's a good word. Supriva.
Stop what you want in demand or in force. Stop the force and start a selfless love, and automatically the loyalty will come to you without any expectations.
Thank you. Excellent. Clara.
Yeah, I put, I'd like to see stop I put closed door policy / judgment and start more human-led values and transparency.
Fantastic. Dr. Thelma, are you there?
Yes, I'm here with my baby. Let's see if you can.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Yes. So for me, I think that I what I would do, I would be less judgmental of people, lower my expectations, and then do more of self-love. I think that that would be it for me.
Fantastic. That is amazing. And what's your little one? What's your little one's name?
She's called Darian.
Hi there.
Say hello.
Thank you. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for your comments. So everybody's had a stop and a start, and I really applaud all of you, and I thank you for your words. I definitely want to stop judgment in the world, and behind that, try and slow down the way we make assumptions, the way we make assumptions about men and women, obviously. And I want to start creating a new landscape. I'm so convinced that the cultural energy that we create as groups, that we can have that language out there. I was told by a wise person recently, as well as all of you are wise, but sort of shaman type wise. She said to me that my mission was to bring together disparate parts, disparate elements. That's not desperate, that's disparate. Okay. And I believe the disparate elements are the straight and the curved, the strong and the soft, the you know, all these things that seem to be polar opposites. Men and women are different. We bring beautiful energy together, like yin and yang. So the idea of male, female, masculine, feminine, all of us and the archetypes, it's all about coming together to that table of abundance. And the notion of a table of abundance is that you put your gift on the table and you don't take your own gift back. So you share somebody else's gift. So my mission for all of you is to share these words out there in the world. And as we do, and we stand as a lighthouse, we shine this light for loyalty. And I really get, and what I love is the different elements that come from all of you. It's absolutely fantastic. And we're missing Philip today because he's not feeling very well. So we're going to send him our love. He's got flu, man flu. Okay. So any of you want to reach out to him to send him a message.
That's terrible though. Man flu is.
Oh, it is. It is.
Is he going to survive? Is he going to survive? Should we send the ambulance now? Because that's very bad. I've had that and barely survived.
Oh no,
I'm still suffering. I'm sure Adolfo too.
Oh yes, I've had it. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And also and I think the other thing is that it's really important to understand how we understand each other's differences. So the way we deal with illness, with flu, with people, it's always different. And that's joyful. And for any of you who want to join me on the next Cracking the Leadership Code, it's actually on Saturday the 26th. It's going to start a little bit later because that Saturday, and I don't know whether you know this, is International Women's Equality Day, which I had never heard of. I don't know whether any of you had. I think, Jennifer, you had. But it's not Women's Independence Day, which was back in March. So for some reason, this is, and I'm doing a friendship presentation at 8 a.m. in the morning Pacific time with a Rotary group in Bangladesh. So we're holding hands on the topic which says healing the world through friendship. So if we heal the world through friendship, I think that's also another really good idea. So that's Saturday the 26th, but I will start the Cracking the Leadership Code at, I think I said 9:30. So to get through 8 till 9, then 9:30 would start and do 2 hours. So any of you want to come along to that as my guest, men and women, that'd be great. And really what we're sharing is deepening this idea of who we are and why we're different. So in the call here, we've got rulers, we've got philosophers, we've got magicians, we've got sovereigns. And any of you who don't understand there's enough, And I'll be talking to you, Dr. Thelma, soon about all of this. Then let's get into the detail of that and the deep dive, because we've got a big world to change out there, big world to transform. Somebody said to me, transform is a better word than change.
Agreed.
So we're out to transform the world from all the great things that we have to more of what we want and need and desire. So I want to say thank you to all of you for being here.
Yeah. Just more gratitude. I just want to leave this call with gratitude and send. I think we can evolve, right?
Absolutely.
Transmute if we're all more grateful for what we do have.
Yeah.
So I want to
Absolutely.
send that out there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. There's a wise man on Instagram who I follow. He's a Buddhist monk, and he said that. He said, it's about kindness, it's about gratitude, it's about love, and it's about you. So you are all the most beautiful people in my life, and I'm truly, absolutely grateful for you being here. And yeah, let's get together on that Saturday, August 26th. I'll send you a note out. And if you want to listen into the 8 a.m. call with Bangladesh, I will send you that as well, because it's about healing the world through friendship. I think that would be a really, really good way forward. Because for me, friendship is always harmonious. Otherwise, it's not friendship. Life is simple when we make it simple. Thank you for being here.
Best of luck
Thank
with
you,
your
everybody.
call.
Bye.
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 Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone.